think it's about 7 o'clock my time. I hope so anyway. Let's get this thing started. So welcome to this nifty Spooky2 seminar. It's Spooky Contact mode, and we'll talk about various things about that. Let's see. By the way, the chat, any questions you need to do the Q&A stuff, because it organizes it for me. It makes it a lot easier. I can't really follow the chat. I got Zara on there to help with the chat, but it's really difficult for me to address that stuff. So what is this? Yes, you're automatically muted. This is a Zoom webinar, and Zoom webinars, it's one way. You have to type in questions. There is no audio on your side other than me talking or Zara talking. So that's where we are. So we're going to get started here. I assume everybody can see my screen. Zara, I know you can because we talked about it earlier. And like I said, please, questions should go in the Q&A. I probably will not answer those in line because I get, it's difficult for me to do that. I can, but it's easier for me to go through the presentation and answer them later. Obviously, you can, if there's something really, a real problem, you can type it in the chat and hopefully I'll catch it and we go from there. Let me expand my chat window here and make it a little easier. Okay, so let's get started on this. All right, so that didn't work for me. So let's talk about goals. I'm a goal-oriented person for Spooky when I do presentations. My goals in Spooky are to get you to the point of where you can go do things when you're done. That's the whole idea. You know, I'm certainly trying to give you information and everything you can use, but I want you to be able to, when we get done with the presentation, you can go do things. That's what I'm trying to do. So we're going to talk about what the heck is Spooky Contact mode. We're going to go through how to hook it up, how to use it. We'll talk about pitfalls. We'll do some Q&A. And we're going to do the theory part first, and then we're going to do some demo for all of this stuff. So we're actually going to go through everything sort of twice, one in theory and one with the screen and with my camera and all that sort of stuff. Let's see, back to this. Okay, so who the heck am I? My name is Michael Goss. You might want to make a note of this email address, spookytechhelp@gmail.com. I'm really good about answering emails. I get probably 10 plus emails a day, and I do read them, and I generally answer them that day if at all possible. There's also a Telegram group at Spooky Tech Help, and so you can join that if you want, and I watch that as well. I've been doing computer stuff since 1979, and I'm a serious techie, and I've been doing technical support as part of my various jobs since 1974. I actually specialize literally in helping people that don't know anything about tech. That's one of the things. It's a gift that I have, which there's good and bad to it. One of the things I do in my spare time is I actually volunteer at my local American Legion, and that's a bunch of retirees. Most of them are 70 and up, and I do a tech help desk there. And so they come in, and these people, the first time they ever owned a smartphone, and I'm showing them how to do that. And I work on anything from that point of view, mostly software. Anyway, but keep in mind, I'm a techie. I'm not a frequency practitioner. I cannot tell you why 5 hertz is better than 29.3 hertz. I can't tell you that. I can certainly help you do searches within the Spooky program or within Google or whatever to figure out what to do. That's not a problem, but I'm not able to give you detailed information of how do I fix this. I just can't do that other than use the Spooky program and it should work. So I've been doing Spooky since 2018. I currently have 2 GX generators, 14 XN generators, and I may talk about why I have so many for a while. I have the colloidal silver kit, which works very well. I have a Centron plasma, which I got in 23, so a little over a year ago, and I've had a scaler since March of last year. Again, you can contact me anytime. Also, I'm one of the administrators and a group expert in the Spooky Right for Life Facebook group. There's a lot of really good people in there, and so if you haven't been on there, I really recommend it. And there's a lot of good information you can search on, and there's a lot of people who can help you there for quick questions. So why do I do these presentations? That's a good question. It's not because I have a lot of time on my hands. So just for your background, I am retired. I live in central Mexico. I live about 30 kilometers south of Guadalajara. And so that's, I live along Lake Chapala. And we retired here about 7 years ago. So I'm in central time zone in case you're interested in that for the US, just to give you an idea. So, what I find is a lot of people buy the spooky equipment because they want to take control of their own health. And a lot of them have major health problems. But a lot of people have close to zero computer skills. And a lot of tasks that sound really easy, here, just do this, are not easy for people. And so, I try to do presentations that are fairly basic. That's what I'm trying to do. And hopefully it won't be too basic for you, but hang on, and because I can talk about some advanced things as well in the Q&A and possibly while we're going through this stuff. All right, so historically, actually, we're very lucky. Historically, when Spooky first came out in the early 2010s, it was much more difficult to use. There's a lot of stuff that you had to really know, and you had to write stuff down. It didn't say squat, that sort of stuff. So that was a problem. Today's Spooky is actually much easier to use. I mean, today's Spooky is like 5 steps and you're going. It looks like it's a lot, but it really isn't. And I can even demonstrate that later if that's what you want to do. And I will be demonstrating that when we go through the demo anyway. So it looks complex, but I don't find it as so. And of course, I'm a techie, but I deal with a lot of people who aren't techies, and they don't find it as super complex. Like everything, there is a learning curve, but if you stick to the basics, it goes up pretty well. So I do have a personal goal that's from of making sure that anybody who's purchased Spooky, you can use it. If you just can't get it to work, you send me an email and we'll work out a time that I will go through it with you and we will get it working for you. It drives me crazy when people who need it, who bought it and can't use it, will get it working. All right, send me an email. And by the way, customer support is excellent as well, although they're not as responsive as I am, but but they are really good. It's not a problem. So keep that in mind. You bought it, you should be able to use it, and it does work. Okay, so if you want a copy of the presentation, if you shoot me an email at spookytechelp@gmail.com, I can send you a copy of the PowerPoint because it comes in handy sometimes. I always like to have them. So if you want that, just let me know. Okay, so what is Spooky Contact Mode? Well, Spooky Contact Mode is essentially, it's something to use low power electricity to send through your body, to send frequencies in your body. It's similar to a TENS unit. It's not the same, but it's very similar. And it uses TENS pads. So those little sticky pads that you stick on parts of your body, and it'll run very low voltage electricity to send frequencies through your body. That's what it does. It's the second most powerful solution that Spooky sells. The plasma is certainly more, and that's why I'm down here. The plasma is estimated to be 30 times as powerful as contact mode, but contact mode is 15 times as powerful as remote. It's really cost effective because you can actually do it for a couple $100. To be honest, you can get an XM generator and a few accessories, or better yet, you can get the single generator kit, which I think is about $400, and do everything you want that way. There's trade-offs to everything, but one of the nice things about Spooky compared to other things in general, this isn't a slam of our competitors, this is just the way things work. Spooky is fully compatible with whatever you bought before. So if you bought just an XM generator to begin with, and you found, oh, wait a minute, I really like it, but I'd like to have more of these. It's not a problem. You don't throw away anything. It all works together, so don't worry about that. It's really easy to upgrade, which is why I have so many XM generators. But it's not a problem. There's no throwaway. There's nothing. Well, if you wanted 10, you had to buy this to begin with. We're not doing that. The last thing, though, is make sure that you check with your doctor before you have any embedded electronics, pacemakers, or whatever you have, to make sure that passing electricity through your body is not going to be a problem, or maybe you just have to avoid an area or whatever. So yes, you can. The email was spooky Tech Help. That's SPOOKYTECHELP Spooky Tech Help. Okay. Let's see, is that on the previous slide? Yes. SpookyTechHelp@gmail.com. Okay. Now, so let's talk about what the accessories with this thing is. Okay. First thing you're going to need is going to need a generator. There's the blue generators, which are called XMs, and there's the silver generators, which are GXs. There's good and bad to both. The GX is much more expensive. Just a generator is about $750 by itself. The XM generator is actually about $100. You usually get the XM remote kit for about $166. I really like them a lot. So that's what I do. The GX generators, you can do very fast biofeedback. That's its claim to fame. And it's really good at that. But mostly when people ask, well, what should I get? I'd get one GX and some N number of XM generators. That's the most cost efficient way, because from a treatment point of view, there's no difference between the blue generators and the silver generator. If you want to do treatments, you can use the blue generator. It works fine. The silver generator has 2 in them, but it's still a lot more than double the price. So that's why most people expand with the blue generators. But there's no difference between them. You control all with the software. And if you're doing contact mode, it doesn't matter which kind of generator you have. So first, let's go through the various parts of the Spooky Boost. This attaches to the generator. Let's see, do I have that in here? Yeah. These little connectors on the side of this or the top of the silver one, the boost connects into that. And then you have a TENS cable, and the cable connects into one of this port here, or this port here, and we'll talk about what those are later on, but you'll hook it into there. And it's got a connector, just snaps on it. And so this is the TENS cable that you'll need with that. And so it hooks into the boost. And then on the other side are pins. And the pins, where's where all the accessories go. So these are TENS pads. That's these little things here. That's where the pins go in. We'll demo that in a little while. Hand cylinders are here. The pins, we hook them up there. And we'll talk about why you like the hand cylinders and all that later. So we go into this. There's also a TENS contact kit, which is not included, at least it wasn't, in any of the kits that I'm aware of at this point. I think you have to buy them separately. These are cloth little guys that are embedded with silver threads, so you can use those as instead of using the stick-on pads. And finally, very recently, relatively recently, they came out with an internal electrode. That would be for your anal canal or your vagina. One of the things you're trying to do with Spooky is trying to get the frequencies through whatever the problem is. And so you can see where, depending what's wrong, the internal electrode may come in handy to where you use the electrode and maybe use a pad on a TENS pad on your stomach area, your abdomen, or whatever. And so it's going to pass current between them. So we'll talk about TENS pad placement. All right. So number one, electricity, which is what we're doing here, takes the most direct path. That's what it does. That's what it always does. So you need to consider that for when you're placing your pads. So you want to put it across the area to be treated. For instance, suppose you have a liver problem. Well, you could attach it, on the skin on your stomach. But what's going to happen with that is that most of the electricity is going to go between the pads at your skin level. It's not going to get real deep. So you're much better off doing one in the front, one in the back to make sure it's going through where your liver is or your gallbladder or whatever the problem is. So that's an important consideration for placing the TENS pads. So some of those examples here of spinal pain, that you can place on either side of your spine because it will go deep enough to get your spine because your spine's fairly shallow compared to your liver, for instance. Leg pain, they'd like it on your lower back, depending on the type of pain it is. I've used it. I had a skin infection in my lower leg, and I used contact mode for that. And I was doing on either side of my calf, as I remember, for that to try to get rid of that. Obviously, around the area to be put in, that's where you do. That's the advantage of contact mode. Where is the problem, and you stick the contacts there. That's the idea. If you have whole body, because there are issues with the whole body, you use right wrist, left ankle. That's where you'd place them so you can get that current going through your entire body. What about where you shouldn't put it? All right, you do not. Remember, you really should be putting questions in the Q&A because I can't. It's real tough for me to answer these things in real time unless it's very specific for what I'm talking about. So anyway, where shouldn't you put them? Well, you shouldn't put them above the shoulders. Spooky does not recommend you stick them on your neck, on your head, all that sort of stuff. It's not a good idea to do that. You have to pass electricity through there. You don't place your pads on your eyes or over your heart. Running electricity through your heart is a bad idea in general. You shouldn't put it on hairy areas because you're trying to get it to adhere to your skin. So you may have to do a little hair shaving, whatever, if you're trying to put it on a particular spot. You shouldn't put it directly in a joint. You can go to above and below or that sort of stuff, but passing it through explicitly through a joint is not a good idea. Don't use them if they're wet. That's you got to let them dry, and don't use them if they're damaged. So, because you're going to ask the question, how many times can I use these little suckers? I can use them. I've used them up to 8 or 10 times. If you want to get the best life out of them, what you should do is clean your skin with rubbing alcohol before and let them dry before you stick them on, because that way it gets get the oils off your skin and the pads will go longer. So that's the best way to handle that. You don't have to buy Sarah, you don't want to hear this. You don't need to buy your TENS pads from Spooky. You can buy them virtually anywhere. I get them from Amazon. You can go down to your local pharmacy and they'll have them. They're not very expensive. I think the last ones I got, I spent about $10 US and I got a whole bunch of them. And we're talking, let's see, I probably got 20 or 40, I don't know, something like that. There are a lot of them. So, and they last a long time because I reuse them a lot. That's not a problem. So they're really good. So how do I attach this to the generator? All right, so here's what I was talking about earlier. Let's move this out of the way. This up here. All right, so there's 3 ports on the Spooky Boost that you can use. This center port, this one here, this is of the 3 ports is the center. This is the high power port. Most of the presets in the Spooky software recommends you use high power, and it works. It works really well. But for some people, they're ultra sensitive, and it can be a little intense for you. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on, a little later in the presentation. But if the general view is if this is too much for you, you put it on the colloidal silver port, which reduces the amount of current it can go through you. But there's also, this is a direct one for the out 1 port, which is about half the voltage of the high power port. So you have 3 choices here you can use. From a documentation point of view, they only talk about high power and colloidal silver. But those are your options that you can use for your accessory. And that's what you always do with your Spooky. You're always using the boost, and you're generally trying to use the high power port or the colloidal silver. So, software. All right. The software, you're going to use presets that are designed for contact mode. These are named with a C in there, a CXX. In the case of cancer presets, the cancer presets have a CXX. That's cancer DB. But there's also 2 special contact mode presets. Number 1, there's a foot bath. Foot baths are really interesting. You'll use the foot bath with the hand cylinders, and so you can detox, or you can do whatever you want that way. And generally, the most effective way is you put 1 foot in the water and you hold the other rod, or you can use 2 buckets and put both feet in each one and handle it that way. And there's a special preset for that, which I'm going to show you. And then there's the internal electrode. That's different. That's in the shell presets, and I'll show you that in just a minute so you can see how all that is done. Now, here's the fun part. What if I get shocks or jolts? So one of the problems for me is in my early days, I did a lot of electronic sort of stuff. And so I'm ultra sensitive to getting shocked. I do not like getting shocked at all. And so it bothers me when I'm getting zapped. So Spooky, number one, if the Spooky has a lot of frequencies, and obviously with the generators, it can go up to 20 megahertz. That's 20 million hertz for frequency, and that's I really don't want to explain what hertz are at the moment, but that's the frequencies it can go up to. But the deal is you can only feel that stuff at about 10,000 hertz or less. And so Spooky has stuff built into the software that says, okay, if it's lower than 10,000, it can reduce the amplitude so you don't get zapped as much. And it can also ramp it up so it's a little slower, so it's not a sudden you're getting zapped on it. None of that is good enough for me, I can tell you that. But you have to understand, it's not a tens machine. This is the other side of the same coin. Some people say, well, I'm doing contact mode and I don't feel anything like I do with my tens machine. There's a reason for that. The tens machine is meant to stimulate your nerves. You're going to feel it. It's at a relatively low frequency. It doesn't change. It's fixed. But what its purpose in life is to block pain signals. That's what it's supposed to work, and it does a good job of that. But the Spooky is not a tens machine. It doesn't do those fixed frequencies or at the levels. The intention isn't to shock you. It can, but that's not the deal. And by the way, while the Spooky can shock you, it's not enough to kill you. Well, they have that warning probably because the lawyers for your heart, that sort of stuff, which doesn't take as much. But for the most part, it's a relatively low voltage and it's very limited current, and the current is what kills you. And so don't worry about that. That's not a problem for it. That won't be an issue. All right. Well, anyway, Judy, if you have questions, make sure you put that in the Q&A. All right, now, so because I will answer all those questions when we get to all that. All right, so again, it's low voltage. Don't worry about it. It's going to kill you because it's not going to. That's not a problem. All right, that's not a big deal. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. I got I've had various things through the years, and I don't like being shocked. That's what it boils down to. Okay, so back to this. All right, so again, how do you reduce it? If you are getting zapped, that basically what the presets say, look, move it to the colloidal silver port, and that will reduce. And generally, I never get zapped if I'm on the colloidal silver. I cannot feel it. That's not a problem. Don't worry about that. If you're trying to get as much treatment as possible and high power is too much, try out one and see if that's a reasonable amount for your body, if you can tolerate that. I'm one of these people that you're giving up something by, if the recommendation is this and you're not doing that, you're doing something that's less. My personal feeling is you're probably not getting as much. So I try to grin and bear it, but there's a limit of what I can do. So if it's too much, the first thing is try some other ports, okay? You can also use larger tens pads, because one of the things that happens with tens pads, they're only, this big. And so now and I have them in here somewhere, they're only that big. And so, all the current has to go through there. Well, if you get larger tens pads, and you can, then it's got more area to pass the voltage through. And so you may feel that less. So that's one of the possibilities. And so, well, she's thinking, okay. And so the other thing is the contact kit. That all these contact kits, which I'll show you a demo of that in just a minute. They're using the silver thread, and so they're covering your whole hand or your arm or whatever, and so it really spreads out a lot. So that's another good possibility. And I kind of like it. So that works as well if you have the kit. Okay, so now we get to go do the demo. So first thing I want to do is we're going to stop my share. Okay. All right. So I have now stopped my share. Let's see if I can make myself. All right. So what we want to do is first I want to show you that. What do I do with my boost? Here's my boost. So this is the Spooky boost, as I pointed out. Here I happen to have a blue generator, and it's got all these ports on it, And we never use, if you look at the front of it in here, God, we never use the TTL port. We only use the out one and out two. And so the boost here attaches to the generator on the out one and out two port. So let me get that hooked on. So it's going to look a lot like this when we get done. Okay. Then generally you're going to use the high power port. That's this one here. That's the second one in from it's on the top, second one in from the left. So now we have my cable. So we're going to hook that up to the high power port, just like that. If you've never used BNC connectors, and I've had people ask about that one, this is a BNC connector. BNC connectors, there's these little pins on here. They go on the pin, and then you turn them a quarter turn to lock them in place, and you can tell that it's locked in because it can't come off. All right. So now on the other side of our cable, we have somewhere, and it's a nice long cable, by the way, which has, well, I have these pins, a red and a black. By the way, you don't care. You can the red and black, they don't go in any particular place. It doesn't work that way. It's not that sort of deal, so it doesn't matter where you plug them in. So if I look at here I happen to have a couple of tens pads, and I've actually used them before. That's why they're stuck. I put the plastic in between them. So all you do is you put the pin into the, like that, and like that, and voila. Now you can stick it to your skin and you're ready to rock and roll. And we'll do the software in a minute. But I want to finish going through the accessories. So that's how you hook that up. So what else do we have? Well, we have the hand cylinders. And again, the hand cylinders at the top here, the pin goes in there. And then I got another one here. So now I have the hand cylinders. And like I said, there's a couple things that are really good for it. Some people have really pushed it, and that they get too sensitive using the tens pads. So I mean, you can always do this or whatever. I've actually recommended that you can, for instance, if you had a problem with your leg, you could actually put this underneath your leg or in and put it in the joint and hold the other one and that sort of stuff so you didn't have to use tens pads. And again, it's a bigger amount. Downside is if you grab it really hard, it makes a much better connection and you can get zapped a little easier. Again, that's not going to kill you, but if you're like me, you're not going to like it. So then we also have, this is one of the things that for the contact kit. And so this one is for legs or whatever. It's pretty stretchy, so you can put it on there and do that. And on these, there's a connector, which is this. They come with it. It snaps on, this little snap here. And then, of course, you'll hook the pins in like that and use it that way. And usually you'll use two of them. And you can use, for instance, you might have one on your wrist and one on your biceps. There's a glove one that you use. There are socks that come with it. There's a whole bunch of them that I didn't bother to get out. And so they're behind me over there. But I do have them if you want to see what they look like. They're fairly straightforward, and you can mix and match these. So maybe you want to use this on your calf or whatever, and you can use an actual tens pad further up or whatever you want to do. So you can mix and match these. It's not a problem. And finally, I have the internal probe. So the internal probe, again, has two connections to it. So if you use the two connections, all the current is going to go between here and here. I've heard, I haven't done it, I've heard that this works really well when you have problems with your anus and that sort of stuff. This works well. You can also hook up one of these, it won't matter which, and then hook a tens pad on the other side. So this is now internal and this is external if you were trying to get a specific area in between. So that's definitely an option for you. This is an option you have to buy. It's not included with any kit. So that's something to consider. Let's see, what do we do? Well, all right, now let me check my notes here and see where we are. Covered all that. Covered attaching to the generator. Sorry about that. So we're into the demo phase now. So let me go share my screen. That. Then, okay. Yes, you are now seeing one of my spooky screens. This is actually in my den. I actually have three different spooky setups in my house. In my den, these are all XM generators. This is where I do most of my remote work. I also do imprint water here, and I do colloidal silver in here. And this is where I also do imprint holographic stickers because I use remotes for all that, and I use the blue generators. In my living room, I have another machine, another spooky computer, and I have a silver generator and a blue generator there because that's where my spooky central is. That way, if we're doing those sort of things, I have a nice, comfortable place to sit, and whoever I'm doing on that sort of stuff, and so I can do that there. Also, if I'm doing biofeedbacks, that's what the silver generator is for. I can do that. I use it for various contact stuff. For instance, I've got this. Well, I've got a couple of problems right now. I've got a tooth that's given me a lot of problems. It's got a crown, and it apparently has a cavity or something under it, according to my dentist. And it's like, oh, we can fix that. We can pull the tooth, and then you need to get an implant. It's like, I want to try other things first. And so I actually am using the PEMF coil on that. I'm not using contact mode because it's up here, but I'm using the PEMF coil and some dental infection stuff, and it's been working really well. I mean, it was outstanding. It was super painful. I was taking gulping ibuprofen for it, and I started this, and the next day I had a little bit of ibuprofen, and the third day it wasn't hurting at all. And so I'm still treating it because I want to make sure it all goes away, but it works really well. So that's what I do there. I'm doing contact mode, biofeedbacks, and all that. And in my bedroom is where my scaler is. And so I have another GX in there for doing so to drive the scaler if I want to do frequencies. So that's what I have, and we're looking at my den one at the moment. Okay, so let's talk about the software. So the software here. Number one, briefly, a preset is most of the presets are self-contained load and go sort of stuff. So if I want to go look at, what's a good example? No, I don't want to do that. Let's look at cancer, DB, contact mode. Okay. So there's these various things that we won't talk about what they are at the moment, but for instance, if you're running this one, the C06, it starts with a C, means contact mode. And if you go to control, you would put it in generator. I'm going to put it in my virtual generator because I'm not using that. It's virtual anyway, and we can talk about that later. And then you can run it to your heart's content here. No problem at all. It's ready to go. That's one of the advantages of these canned presets. So if we go look at, let's see another one. Let's see what's in these lines. DH in there as well. Oh, that's an old one. So let's put the tropics. Those are always fun. Now let's well, there's all kinds of stuff. Ear infection. Let's see what that says. Again, so like an ear infection, you can do this, but what you need to do is you need to put your TENS pads for contact mode on your shoulder, up in here and maybe in the front, and get to it that way. Don't put the contacts on your ear, face, or throat. It's a bad idea. But anyway, those are self-contained. The next thing you can do, however, which is a lot more fun, is use a shell. And we're going to do contact for the shell. And generally, what I recommend is if it's a healing, use healing CJW. Now, there's a bunch of them in here. Those are advanced topics, in my opinion. We're covering the basics. Remember, I'm a basic sort of person. There's healing, there's killing, and there's a bunch of people. If you're not sure, you can use universal square H-bomb. It can be really harsh and cause hurt stuff if you're not careful. I tend to stick with healing and killing. But while we're here, though, I want you to notice this is the internal electrode. You don't use a regular contact mode if you're using the internal. You use the internal electrode one specifically. It has some other restrictions in it to make sure it doesn't zap you too much. And just as a side for contact mode, for those of you who have a GX, so you can do it in offline mode without a computer, there is one of the caveats of that is it's not smart enough to reduce the amplitude. So if you're running 400 hertz or whatever, you're going to feel that because if you have the computer controlling it, the computer can reduce the amplitude so you can't feel it as much. The offline mode, it cannot do that. You get the full zap. And so be careful. That's one of the things that I actually never use contact mode in offline. I just don't do it. I felt like I said, I don't like being zapped. It bothers me. Anyway, so generally, so let's do a, let's do it. So we're going to do a healing, and then we're going to go figure out, well, what do you want to put in? And those here in the notes, it talks about, there's 10 exposed hand cylinders to silver if you need to. If that's what you need. For higher power, use higher power. That's what you're supposed to do. And we covered. What kind of programs can we put in this? So we're doing healing. You can see that I was doing some stuff earlier. My searches take a long time because this is a $125 mini PC. So we'll give it a minute. You'll finally go through all the databases. It will do it. It just takes a while to do. Come on. Make a liar out of it. We'll turn them all off. We'll go to EDVFL, one of my favorites. Okay, so in here, for instance, drug addictions, we'll throw that in. So now we have that in here, and now I can simply, I picked a heal, a healing contact mode. That's a C, it's contact mode, and I threw a program in it, which I just named addictions, drug general, and then over to the control tab, over at the generator, stick it in the generator, and it is ready to go. I can start it, and it's now going to run for 30 minutes. I would not recommend, I'm not a believer in running the contact mode forever. I'd run it for whatever the program says and just do it that way, because it does zap you, and if you leave it on long enough, it can burn your skin. Meaning, and long is measured in hours. This one will not. It runs for 30 minutes, you'll be fine. Okay, don't worry about that. So again, you can do all that stuff. Let's see. So, all right. So do that. Let me go look at my presentation. See what's left to me. All right. So we've gone through all the stuff. We've gone through how to hook it up. We've gone through how to use the software with it. So you can do that. That's not a problem. So and believe me, and it is simple to use. I think you will find it. I like it because it's really powerful. It's definitely my go-to. What I tend to do if I have a serious problem, generally, I'll be using contact mode if I'm not using my plasma, but I'll also use remote at the same time. I'm one of those people that believes more generators are better than fewer generators. If I only had one generator, which some people do because of budgetary concerns, whatever, I would be running the contact mode, and when I wasn't running contact mode, I'd be running remote the rest of the 24 hours a day. That's going to be your most effective way to work on whatever issue you have. You're going to find that the best way. Okay, so let me. I'm going to do Q&A now, and I have a couple more slides to do, and we'll get to those in a minute. But for right now, we will go to Q&A. So okay, so first one, Max. Max is asking you contact place of kidney stones. Again, I would go front and back around, find the kidneys, put a TENS pad right over that, and then on the opposite side of it, on your admin side, I'd place the other one there, and that's how I would handle kidney stones. And Becky Hamilton. If I'm using a remote for one thing, can I still do contact with another? Yes, you can do it on another remote. However, um, or another generator. So the way this works is you only get to hook up one item per generator. So if you're using a remote on that generator, you need another generator if you want to do contact mode. But yes, you can do that. That takes two generators. But what you can't do is you can't do remote stuff and contact mode with a single generator. A single generator. You get into fuzzy stuff with the GX, but there's two generators in the GX. Don't forget that. So you can use one side G1 for this and G2 for that. There's two generators in it. Blue generators, it's just one generator. So if you want to do do that, you need two generators, one for remote and one for contact. Hope that answered your question. If not, resubmit. Let's see. Katrina. Let's see. I'm wanting to break down scar tissue in the sigmoid colon. Ooh, okay. Again, left tailbone. I think your idea of where to put it is the best thing to do. Again, you want to pass the frequencies through the area that you want. So, if you put them on all one side of your abdomen, it's not going to do it, but you need a front and back for that. So that looks like a good approach to me. That's what I would do. Shalona. Hi, Shalona. How are you doing? We text and email all the time. When I do hunt and kill with TENS pads, after the 10 freaks are delivered, may I disconnect the TENS pads and move around the killing part? Okay. Here's the question for every sentence. When I do a hunt and kill with TENS pads, after the 10 frequencies are delivered, may I disconnect the TENS pads to move around while the killing part is going on my nails and the remote? The answer to that is yes, but it's conditional. Here's the problem. What hunt and kill does, hunt and kill, first it has the biofeedback scan. So it takes whatever, probably about 19 minutes, depending on which one you're doing. It takes about 19 minutes to do your biofeedback scan. It's gonna find 10 frequencies. That's what it's supposed to do. Then it's going to start a killing on your generator you set up in your remote, and that's going to run for 30 minutes because the default is 3 minutes per frequency. So it's going to be for 30 minutes. When it gets done with that, then it's going to go back and it's going to do another biofeedback. But this time it's a lot faster. I mean, those biofeedbacks take less than 2 minutes because what it does, it's a hunt and kill. The intent is, well, what if your pathogens are trying to get away and they're moving a little bit? So what it does is it goes back and scans around the 10 frequencies it found to begin with. So that only takes a minute or two. So it's pretty fast. And so it develops a new set of 10, the most responsive, and it goes and does a 30-minute killing on that. So if you disconnect your TENS pads, it's going to have a real problem with that because it's expecting it to be hooked up. My advice for that would be, if you're going to go do other things, just do a biofeedback, save them, and then build a killing program to run on your remote. And then you can come back and redo it later if you want to. And there are actual ways for you to sort of do a restart a hunt and kill. That's a lot more advanced than I want to discuss here in this presentation. So yeah, if you want to go do stuff, my recommendation would be to do that. Now, if you're going to run you're going to run to the restroom for 5 minutes, yes, you can certainly disconnect the contact pads from you and connect them back in. Keep in mind, and this is a keep in mind, most of the time, if I'm doing a hunt and kill, I'm going to spend 2 hours doing it. I just do it I do it contact mode. And so I just hook it up. I do a hunt and kill, leave all the defaults. So it's going to scan, then it's going to kill on those pads. And then it'll scan and kill on those pads. So, you can always do that. And then if you need to get up, you can always pause it, you disconnect, go do your thing, come back, plug it back in. That's what I would do for that. So hopefully that made sense. Wasn't too wordy. Okay, Annabelle, why does my computer so often disengage while I'm trying to push a button on the screen? It seems very difficult to keep it engaged. I keep getting the blue circle going endlessly. And the dialog box saying it isn't responding. Well, that's a complex hardware question. There's many things that could cause that. Generally speaking, actually, 99% of the time, when it's doing that, it's because you're getting a generator error. And what it's doing is that Windows is trying to recover from the generator error. and it probably won't. So what you need to look for that is if you're in the control tab, what you'll see is your generator is green, the icon's green, but it has red writing. If you're seeing this a lot, there's recovery from it. My advice is that you send me an email on this. There's a bunch of things that we can do to try to figure out what's wrong, but it's not something I can address within this format that we're doing here, because it could be this, it could be that. But send me an email and we'll get you working on that. But that's probably what that is. And so if you're if I didn't understand, please resubmit the question. Okay, Lisa. Let's see. Those buttons on the XM Blue generator, if you actually press the buttons, we auto the program now. Nope, no. Those things don't do anything. Essentially, the blue generator is a throwback. It's been around like that for a long time. The software totally controls it. You don't have to worry about those buttons, knobs, or anything else. It takes care of that. Don't sweat it. It's not an issue. The software is controlling it. It's sort of like it was the outer limits. Remember those? We are controlling the horizontal hole. I'm really dating myself for that. Anyway, the software totally controls that stuff, so it doesn't matter on the blue generator. Don't sweat it. Okay, Megan, what about ankle injury? I damaged the ligaments. Well, there's several things you can do for that. You can certainly use contact mode for that. I would tend to put it, depending where I'd probably put one contact above the ankle somewhere, with the idea, and on the opposite side of what you're trying to treat. I don't know which ligaments you damage, so I can't. I'm not sure where they're damaged. Certainly, if you're trying to get them all, I'd put one on the on the bottom of my foot, and the other one probably 3 or 4 inches above on the calf side, and run it that way to try to get it all through there. That's certainly a possibility, by the way. And the other thing you can do for that, even though it's not part of what we're doing here, is the PEMF coil is really good for those sort of injuries as well. So if you have a PEMF coil, consider that as well. Okay, Anonymous. We use contact mode via 10s almost every night. My question is about preset shells, healing and killing. Can a healing preset with healing frequencies be placed inside a killing preset? No. What happens is the preset, the short answer was no. So the preset is what my wife gave me this one. The preset is the recipe, okay? It's like, we need to bake this for 350 degrees, whatever this stuff. And the program is the ingredients. The problem you run into is the shell is, if you have a healing shell, it's using waveforms and whatever that are good at massage and being nice and for healing, as opposed to the killing ones are good for thumping. I mean, that's what they're there for. And so the healing frequencies, they will work with healing presets, will work with killing frequencies, but it'll take longer. And on the other side, if you use healing frequencies with killing presets, it may give you Hertz reactions, or it may not work as well, because the healing stuff is you're trying to convince your body to get back to normal, as opposed to slapping it around. Now, there are a couple presets out there that are supposed to be good for healing or killing, and you can try those, but my preference is to stick with a healing preset for healing frequencies and a killing preset for killing stuff. And so what you have to do is what they do with terrain. You can have you create a healing preset with your stuff in it, and a killing preset with your killing stuff in it, and then you do a chain together and you run the chain. And that's beyond the scope of this. If you send me an email, I have a nice video on how to create those. It's like a 4-minute video, a 3-minute video. It's really easy to do, but there are some specific steps to do it. Okay, so okay, now Trina, it says not to use pads on scarred skin. What happens? It's just not as effective. Scarred skin doesn't conduct electricity all that well. That's the reason you don't want to do it. It won't hurt you. It's just, it's not a big deal. So don't worry about it. It just doesn't conduct. It's sort of like, you're putting on gloves. How well is that going to work? Not too well. Okay, so Anonymous again. I'm just repeating here instead of anonymous. Whatever that means. We use contact modes every night. No, we are we answered that one. So I would do a chain for that. I'd have a healing preset and a killing preset, and I'd chain them together and run the chain. J. It does not show migraine or dental pain on this site. Well, there are definitely programs for migraine and dental on within the programs tab. So that's what you would use. You would use either healing or killing, depending on what it is, and you would add the migraine or dental pain to it and run it that way. So that's what the programs tab is for. That's here. And so if I do migraine, see, there's stuff in there. So that's what you need to do. So Alona, on the XM, how do I know which program I'm sending? Well, that would be so here in the control tab. So whatever's in there, like on this one, on 17, I'm running currently. I'm running this on my radionics, a water with inflammation. It's got all these programs in it. That's what I'm running. So I think that answers your question, Shalom. So that's how you know what you're sending to. Remember the basics of Spooky, and some people get confused by that. You always load a preset first. Always. If you're going to get a preset, probably a shell preset if you're going to add your own programs. Then you go to the programs tab, add whatever you want there. Then you can go put it on the generator and run it. There's only 3 steps. There's actually 1 or 2 others, but essentially that's the way it works. You get a shell preset, throw some programs in it, and then load generator, run it. And when you do it, it'll look something like this. You'll have something in here where it says what's on generator 17, and it'll have a list of the programs you're running over here on side of over on the side of it, and it'll keep track. Okay, is it paper towels for the hands? Okay. Is it best to use a wet paper towel? Oh, for those. No, I wouldn't do that. I would just use regular bare skin. I would not wet my. I definitely wouldn't wet my hands. Wetting your hands is going to increase the conductivity, and you're going to get zapped even more. Spooky is not structured for that, so no, I would not do that. I wouldn't wet them, and certainly you wouldn't want to have a paper towel between that and the hand cylinder anyway, because the paper is going to insulate it. Just use them dry. It's not a problem. Obviously, you could clean them later on with get anything off of it and use it clean, but you don't need to do that. So don't worry about it. Lisa, I've gone on pause and disconnect the pads. Only take a break. I read you shouldn't do that. Well, it depends. I mean, if you're talking about you're taking a 10-minute break, pause works fine. To be honest, I've paused stuff and come back a day later. There's some gotchas with that, but it's not a big problem. So you can do that. But for the most part, what I would do is if I'm going to be gone for 5 or 6 hours, I'm going to just start the thing over. I mean, I don't see any point in doing a pause. Pause is intended for a few minutes, is the way I look at it. And so if I pause it, I thought I was going to come back in 5 minutes and then come back till tomorrow, then I'm going to hit stop and I'm going to start it again from scratch. That's what I would do. Okay, rods. Will the probe work for bladder issues? Yes, it would. I don't see why it wouldn't. And so depending on where you're probably going to end up using it vaginally for that. You can use that. Another possibility, if you have a system, I don't know what you have for system, but that actually bladder issues. That's a really good example for the sample digitizer because you can put a urine sample on that and let Spooky do the work of finding the pathogens. But that's assuming you have that. But yes, you can certainly treat this way if that's what you choose to do. Anonymous. For the internal probe, is it okay to use natural skin condom? Nope, it's not. The problem is anything you put like that on it is going to reduce the conductivity. It'd be a lot cleaner if you could do that, but you can't. You really can't do that. You obviously need to wash it well afterwards and try not to get the wires wet. But it would be more hygienic, but it also wouldn't work nearly as well. Okay, key cameras. Reference for using trading pots. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it before. Let's see if I can copy this. Programs. Oops. It worked. Okay. Well, so that's I've never heard of it before. I mean, this is commonly what I do, guys. I mean, it's like, what the heck is that? First thing I'll do is I go search for it in programs. Oh yeah, there's programs for it. Okay. I still don't know where that is. Let's see what it says down here. Say anything. That told me a lot, didn't it? I don't know what that is. Um, Certainly, yes, you can use contact mode for that. Um, so I don't know what area that's in, but yes, you could use contact mode in it. Again, for anything big time, I'm going to use both remote and contact at the same. Okay. How do you imprint? Okay. You need to send me. Actually, if you go out to my YouTube site, which you'll have a reference for it later, but it's youtube.com/@ Spooky Tech Help. That's what it is. I have a really nice presentation on how to do holographic stickers. That's what I'd recommend. That it's not hard to do, but it's well beyond what I can answer in a Q&A session. And you can always send me an email and I can point you to it or answer any questions or whatever. It was a private presentation I did in June. It was one of the first ones I did. And so it's really easy to do. I actually have 3 or 4 of my generators making holographic stickers right now because I like them so much. But again, I like them a lot, and I make a whole bunch of them. So that's an offline conversation. Send me an email if you want more details. But like I said, on my YouTube page, I have a presentation for that. Kimberly, ibuprofen kills your micro. Yeah, 100%. Be kind. Yeah. Well, that's a fair point. And I know that ibuprofen has a lot of issues. On the other hand, when I'm into intense pain from stuff, I like to work on that. So, but that's why I was using Spooky. I was only using it for a small amount of time, but I appreciate the advice. That's one I hadn't heard before. So I'll try to keep my ibuprofen usage down to an absolute minimum. Lower the amplitude. Oh, yes. Okay, that's a good one. So let's go do this. Let's see, we've got this guy in here already. So let's do presets. So the question is, can you show how to lower the amplitude? Okay, I'm getting zapped even on low power, which is an interesting thing to do. So we're going to shell, and we're going to say contact, and we're going to say, we're going to use P1, okay? And then we're going to put some programs in because there's no programs in now. And since this was the one we had in there, we'll put that in. All right. So now we have this thing where we could load it, but in settings, and if you don't have settings, by the way, if you don't have a settings tab up here in utils, there's a toggle advanced features that turns on all these other tabs that you're not seeing, but it should look a lot like this. And so in settings, right here to amplitude, that's where you'd change it. You could change this to 8 volts and change the other one to 8 volts. And to be honest, if I'm going to do this, I would use the out 1 port. It's a debatable issue, but I'd use the out 1 port and play with it this way. And notice there's other things in here because it's contact mode of how fast it increases voltage and where it reduces the amplitude and all that sort of stuff. That's in here. But this is where you're going to go change it. But you have to do that before you load it. So now I can go to control, I can overwrite my generator, click on the virtual generator, start it, and notice it's ramping up, and it's only gone to 4.8 volts because it's such a low frequency. If we go to a higher frequency, click on that, and see now it's at 8 volts. So that's what I would do. Again, you load everything, load your preset, load your programs, go to settings, change it there, and then go load it to on the generator. Hopefully it answers the question. Start and stop a generator and restart. Oh, cool. All right. So since we're already running, I'll restart. Okay. So we have our generator cooking along here and say, I need to take a 30-minute break. That's a pause. Click on pause. It stops exactly where it is. And now you can unhook. You can do whatever you want. And then when you get back, you can hook everything back up, click pause again, and it picks up exactly where it left off. That's how you do that. All right. And so, again, if you're going to be gone for a long time, this is good for minutes. I mean, you can start, like I said, you can come back tomorrow if you want. But if I'm coming back tomorrow, I'd restart the whole thing. Okay. Masarat. Hopefully I spelled pronounced your name right. Where do you put the TENS pads for dental infections? Good question. From my point of view, it's going to be on your shoulder. If it's on my, like mine's on my right side, it'd be on the shoulder, probably front and back. That's what I do. But I'll be honest with you, that's why I'm running the PEMF coil, which is this guy up here. If you can see it, it's a little lollipop looking thing. Because I'm using my wife's headband. I put it around it and hold it on there because I'm running something for an hour for it. So, and if you want to know what that is, send me an email and I'll send you the programs I'm running and however you want to do it. But from contact mode, you're going to do it on your shoulder. That's where it's going to be. That's as close as you can get. Okay. Ryan Kelman. How do you change holographic stickers and then, how do you charge? Glenn, it's not hard to do. I mean, essentially, you'll put the holographic stickers in your remote is where I do them. You can do them on top of the PEMF coil. Spooky sent me these really nifty little ones with the spooky ghost on them. They don't fit in the remote. So I'm sticking them on other things. What I use, and it's in my presentation, is I use these little dudes from, let's see if we can see these. Oh, there it is. I buy these from Amazon US. They cost me $10 for 1,000 of them. And those fit nicely into the remote. And so that's what I tend to do. Again, I'd recommend that you go to my YouTube site. That's youtube.com/@SpookyTechHelp. And there's a very nice presentation in there of the step-by-step of how to make holographic stickers. It doesn't talk about anything else holographic because remember, I do stuff for beginners. I mean, and yes, you could do all kinds of things with imprinting. All I covered was holographic stickers because that's enough to get you started. I mean, you can do other things later. Once you can do holographic stickers, you can go on and do anything. But that's what I'd recommend you do. I can't really cover it here because that was a 1 hour presentation. All right, so anonymous. Maybe I'll just make the healing preset mode program and then I can run one after another. I turn off our remote when we run contact mode. I don't know what you mean by you turn off your remote. I don't know if you're running it on another generator and you stop the generator. I don't know. You may over on my YouTube site, there's a 3 or 4 minute video on how to chain presets. It's really easy to do, and so it's really nice. It's I want to run this and I want to run that. It works really well. So that's what I do. But yes, you can certainly do that. You can run that, and when it gets done, you can kick off something else. That'll work fine. Victoria, let's see. In your example, for drug addictions, where do you place the TENS pads? That's a good question. I would consider that a whole body thing. I would do right wrist, left ankle for that. I haven't done, apparently I'm addicted to spooky XM generators since I have 14 of them. But I don't want to get over that addiction. For other types of addictions, that's where I would put those things. Okay, done with that. Lance, can the XM run a contact simultaneously? Yes, if you have more than one generator, you can run remote stuff on generator 1 and contact on generator 2. What you can't do is if you only have a single generator, like a single blue generator, you can't do contact and remote at the same time. Only plug in one accessory into a generator at a time. Okay, Janine, if I choose to use internal line on one cable, TENS pads on the other cable, how would I set my presets? If you're using the internal, you always use the internal shell. That's this guy, and shell. Oops, missed it. Shell and contact. If you're using the internal electrode, use that shell preset always. Okay. No specific for 10 pad. Yes, because the second part of the question is that the 10 pads always run on the preset. Yes, that's the way it works. Is all the settings are set up for using the internal electrode, and because don't forget, all of the contact mode goes between two things, and so you set it up, and that's the way it is. So don't worry about it. Just use the internal electrode contact mode. That's what you need to do because it has special things in it so you don't get zapped. Lori St. Clair. Well, so thank you. Steve Miller. Well, what is the EDTF and how to use it? Okay, so let's go to programs. Over here in programs, let me move this out of the way so I can see it. Over here, you have databases. Each database is a group of frequencies from whatever. So if I hover over the alt, it will say alt consists of programs based on whatever knowledge and practice disclosure and planetary frequencies. That's where that came from. In this case, EDTFL it's a frequency database from these bioresonance clinics. So you can hover over any of these and find out what the heck this is. So from my point of view, one of the things I learned some time ago, so you might want to make a note of this, is that there's 3 databases I really like. And I like them because of what they tend to be. This is the first one, EDTFL. The reason is that's actually comes from Germany. And in Germany, Spooky is a licensed product. It is regulated. And so my view is Germans are pretty thorough, and if it's licensed there, I consider this a very good good database. The next one I like is CAFL. Again, it's another one that has a lot of good stuff in it. Let me do something else too. And so I'm doing a tooth and see these first ones are in the EDTFL, actually EDTF for databases. Then there's some from CAFL. I like the CAFL. The other one I like is PROV. And again, it just has to do with my personal ones. Those are ones I give the most credence to, but I use them all. But especially if I'm, I've got 16 and that's not too bad. If I'm using something that's getting me a lot of hits, I tend to look at the EDTFL first, CFL second, and PROV third. That's just what I tend to do. You can do whatever works for you. Right now, my tooth stuff I'm running, I think it may be from X. There's a lot of really good stuff in all these databases. And so, but I tend to look around. You'll find that things run faster. Your searches do if you have a faster computer. But if you limit the amount of databases, so it's sort of up to you how you do that. But that's what that is. Hopefully, it answers your question. Okay. Vivek, can I use plasma and contact mode at the same time using except generators? I would not do that. Plasma is a whole different matter. Plasma is a very strong thing. What you should do is if you want to enhance the plasma, you can use contact mode from the central. That's a whole different matter. They work together, and then spiking it does things to open up your cells better. That's the way you should do that. I would not do contact mode from some other generator at the same time I'm trying to use plasma. Now, obviously, if you did a plasma session at 8 a.m. and you did it to 9 a.m., at 9 a.m. you could go off and do anything else you want. And you can always run the remote mode with anything else. That's not a problem. But contact mode and plasma, if you want to do them together, use the contact stuff that's built into the Spooky Central. Okay, Timothy Brown. What level and type of computer can we use? All the options. Well, that's an interesting question. So what type and level of computer can we use? How old an operating system of PC? Well, here in my bedroom, I told you that's the one I run that's with my scaler. That's a Windows 7 machine. It's a 14-year-old Windows 7 laptop. And it works just fine with Spooky. It's got 4 gig of memory, and it's just fine. The other ones, the one that we're showing now is actually a Windows 10 machine. It has 4 gig of memory. It's so slow, not because of memory, because the hard drive in it is really, really slow. I mean, really slow. On the other hand, in my living room, I have another mini PC. It's running Windows 11. I can't remember if it has 4 gig or 8 gig, but you can use almost anything. I've used when I first got my plasma, I was using XP with it. XP will still work with it. I wouldn't recommend it because XP can have other problems with USB ports. But certainly I prefer Windows 7 and up. Theoretically, to work with Vista, although I hate Vista. It'll work with 8. I hate 8 even more. I tend to be Windows 7, 10, or 11. One of the pieces of advice that I give people all the time is, I'm pretty cheap. That's what it boils down to. I think that I don't want to spend more money than I have to. So my view is, if you need a spooky computer, my first recommendation is go look in your closet, because chances are anything in your closet you could use for spooky. So keep that in mind. If you don't have anything in your closet, go talk to your friends and see what they have in their closet they're willing to give you. These are all low cost things. And again, it's Windows 7 or up. There's no problem at all. And then after that, I would go look for refurbished, used ones, refurbished from Amazon or whatever, because if anything goes wrong, you can send them back. I know people that have bought stuff. Actually, I've bought stuff off of eBay that was used, and that's pretty good, but it's not as I'm not as convinced that it'll be, it'll work. That always worries me. And so, but certainly, and then if you want new, you can get a very low end laptop at Amazon for less than $300, and those work just fine. Again, it has to be Windows. That's very important. It has to be an Intel or AMD processor, because there's some Windows out there that aren't those. You don't want those. And it needs to be, I would highly suggest 4 gig of memory. I mean, those are the main things. The amount of hard drive it takes up is inconsequential. You cannot do this with a Chromebook. I see these all the time. You essentially can't do it with an Apple computer. There are ways to do it with an Apple computer, but unless you're really technical, you don't want to think about that. It's an exercise in frustration, although it does work. So that's a possibility. And so keep all that in mind. You don't need, and I've been using the Spooky for 6 years. Spooky software and all that doesn't evolve that much to where, I have no doubt I'll be able to run my Windows 7 computer for some time with Spooky. I've been running it for forever with Spooky, ever since that was the first one I ran on. And it still runs just fine, even though they'll come up with 2 or 3 upgrades in a year. That's not a problem. They don't use anything new and different in it, so that's not a problem. And now, if you're using your Spooky computer for other things, that's an entirely different topic. Number one, you should, because they're interaction things, you'll be happier if it's dedicated. But if you're using it for other things because that's what you need to do, that's a different thing. And yes, you're going to need more memory if you have 41 tabs open in Chrome and that sort of stuff. But for Spooky only, you can use almost anything that's higher than a tin cannon string. Okay. Oh, by the way, I prefer laptops to desktops because they use a lot less power, no matter what. Explain selecting various databases. So I think I covered the database stuff already. That was over here and what they are. And so the default is they're all selected or deselected or whatever you want. So I think I answered that. I hope. Okay. Emmanuel, is there a preferred place to stick 10 pounds to treat prostate? Well, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to remember what the Manuel Milo stuff is. I think the bottom part of your abdomen, you need to have a pad there, and probably on the other side of your back. Although there's another way you can do it. You could treat on the outside of your thighs and get the frequencies going that way. So those are the 2 things I would suggest. Okay, Max. What program would be best for kidney stones? That's a good question. Let's go see what it says. I don't have anything in mind. As I said, I'm not a practitioner. What I tend to do is I do kidney. Do the search. We'll look in the databases I like. This is what I'm doing. And there's probably some stones in here somewhere. I mean, this is what I would do. I mean, and there may be a technical, see, gravel deposits. There may be a technical name for it, which you could search on. See, look, there's kidney stones in here. So, I mean, my personal feeling is I'd go, I'll add all these in and run them on a remote. And as long as it's not more than 2 hours, which it isn't, I'd start there. And obviously you could, if I was just to do contact mode, I'd probably pick two of them that would add up to about an hour and run it that way. Like I might pick this one and this one. Or if I wanted to just do one, I'd start with EDTF because I like them. And so that's what I would do for that. Timothy Brown, what memory and operating system? Okay, so 4 gig is more than enough. Actually, one of my machines, I was running Windows 10 with 2 gig, and which is the bare minimum, and it did work, but it works better with 4. So I get 4 gig of memory and any Windows, pretty much any Windows, but it has to be Windows. It has to be an Intel or AMD processor. Those are the things you need to do. Can I share what I did for kidney stones one day of drinking apple cider? Only, no soda water. I've heard this before. Only vinegar. Next morning, half cup fresh lemon juice, half cup olive oil. I've heard that works. I don't know. So what he said, repeat this, because I can't remember whether the Q&A is actually in. I know the audio is. So he did 1 day of drinking apple cider only, no food or water. Boy, I hate the taste of apple cider. Is that an apple? That should be apple cider vinegar, shouldn't it? Anyway, but it says apple cider. No fruit or water. Not vinegar. Okay, so apple cider. Next morning, half cup fresh lemon juice, half cup of olive oil, mixed drink, and then only purified water until dinner, and eat a clean meal. So yes, I read it. I've heard that works, but I've not had those, so I can't really answer. I can't testify to that. What do you say? I'm actually using a bunch of tooth frequencies. Again, if you see, is that in here? It might be in here. There may be a remote on it. Let's look. That would be in no. Nope. Yep, this is what I'm running. Yep, that's what I'm running. This is it here. I'm running dental infection 1, dental infection 2, dental infection. These are all CAFLs. Dental infection roots and gums. Dental infection 3 and dental infection 4. This is the one I'm running on remote. I built this and then I converted this to PEMF coil, which by the way, I have a video on how to do that as well, how to convert one type to another. So I didn't have to go rebuild it because I'm lazy. But that's what I'm running to do this. And like I said, it took 2 days, but by the 3rd day, it doesn't hurt anymore. It just doesn't. So that's what I did. So, and if you want more details, shoot me an email and I can shoot you the presets or whatever you want. It's one of the things I like about presets are portable. You know, I can send you a preset, it'll run just fine on your machine. Okay, here we go. We are talking to Rachel. What preset program are you using with tooth issues? Yeah, I just told her. This, Doug, some notes, and put a crown, sensitive on occasions. Well, I certainly would run what I'm doing for that. And there is, by the way, there's programs for dental extractions and all that sort of stuff out there as well. But this is what I would run. Again, shoot me an email if you want the details, or if you want the absolute list of what I'm doing, or you can pause and go back and in a couple of days when the video comes out. And where are we? We're about an hour and 31 minutes into the video. So if you make a note of that, you can just skip there and go there. Okay, Moya. Yeah. Let's see. Is plasma function only available on high-end models? No. To do a plasma, you have to buy a Spooky Central and at least one plasma tube with it. Then you drive that using a generator. Either one, the blue generator or silver generator, doesn't matter. But it's an extra cost. So yes, and it's not an inexpensive cost. It's about $1,800, I think, as an add-on. So that's what we need to do for that. Let's see, Robert Bruce. Where would I put TENS pads for trigger thumb? I would put that for trigger thumb. I'd be doing here on either side down here under the thumb. That's why I do that. And Peacock. Oh, hi, Ann. How are you doing? We've talked via text, via email. Let's say I have remote going, but I wanted to do colloidal silver, and the only generator for the remote, would show up. So what am I doing wrong? So I'm not sure what you're saying. It sounds like what you're saying is when you're in the control tab, it's only showing one generator. If that's the case, it's probably some sort of generator error that you recovered from. If that's the case, what I would do is I would shut down Spooky, shut down Windows, turn off all their generators, physically power them off, wait a few seconds, power them back on, then start the Windows computer, and then start Spooky, and all of your generators should show up again. If they don't, you need to send me an email so we can figure out what's wrong, because there's some other sort of problem. I think that's what you asked, but it sounds like you can't see all of your generators. So that's what you need to do. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering about that, so I'm running this dental infection stuff right now. If something happens where, like, I had to restart the computer, I mean, these things aren't coming up. So what happens is I start everything up. All these are going to be like 50 here. They're all going to be pink with black writing. That's what you tell. No, global resume. Global resume will restart all your generators where they were, because Spooky does an excellent job of keeping track of where the generators are. So if you ever have a problem where it went away and you just need to restart everything where it was, do this. Now, one of the things it will do is it'll restart everything. So in this case, whatever I was running on 50, it'll think it's going to restart that as well. But it's a lot easier to just go stop the ones you weren't running anymore, and that way you don't have to worry about what you were doing, because it takes care of that for you. Okay. I'm sorry, T, I cannot pronounce your name. How do I set up for remote healing and what frequency? Well, for remote healing, you're going to need a generator. You're going to need a Spooky boost and a remote and a fingernail or so. And then you're going to come in and you're going to do some searches on programs depending on what's wrong with you. There is no one frequency to do stuff, and there is no one button heal me. You have to figure out what's wrong and whatever. But if you look at programs, there's literally almost 60,000 different things in there. Usually you can find programs that are set up for whatever you're trying to do. Hopefully that helps you. Sherry Wilcox, how do you do a hunt kill with the central? Generally, you wouldn't use the central for that. The reason is it's sort of like doing hunt and kill with contact mode, because you have to hook it up to yourself. But like anything else, hunt and kill, you do set up the hunt and kill, and you'd have the biofeedback in generator 1 or whatever, and then you'd point it to generator 2, which was hooked up to your central, and you'd need to load a killing program into that generator, and then you go back to the biofeedback one and just run the biofeedback, and it's smart enough to, when it gets done, it runs it on the other generator for the plasma. So that's not uncommon if you're using the sample digitizer to do it that way. But I mean, it's difficult to explain other than that without me doing a bunch of research. And I hate to give you the wrong stuff, but essentially you load the biofeedback preset and then adjust the output to run it on the generator that's hooked up to your central. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, send me an email. On hunt and kill, do I use out 1 or out 2? I get confused. For the biofeedback, you generally use out 1. You almost never use out 2 in Spooky stuff. Almost never. So always use out 1 for the biofeedback side, and on the other generator that you're doing the kill on, assuming that you're doing, it's whatever you're supposed to do, whether it's plasma or remote or whatever you're doing. If you're doing it in contact mode, you only need 1 generator. You use out 1 for the scan, and it'll do the killing as well. It is the simplest way to do that. Are you using contact on tooth program? No, actually, I'm using my PEMF coil. PEMF coil works really well at the lower frequencies, which these are, and it has a depth of about 6 to 8 inches, And so it's pretty good for that. So I like it a lot. Like I said, I put a headband around my face to hold it in place, and I watch TV or what I'm going to do. What program do I put for hunt kills with tens pads? Okay, well, that's a good question. So we go over here, we do this, we go to presets, and we say home, and it's biofeedback, and we're going to use generator X, so we W generator X, and we're going to use hunt and kill. That's the one to use. And you follow these directions here, and in the case of if you're going to do contact mode, you're just going to take this, you're going to load it into a generator, which I'm loading it into my virtual at the moment, because that's the only virtual there. And if you're just doing contact mode, you just do a scan, and it'll and leave it connected and just let it go wild. I've done this at night, by the way. The only trick is with that, you need to figure out some way to attach the wires so you don't accidentally rip them off while you're turning or whatever, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, that works really well, and I've done that at night. Right, do that because it does the biofeedback on the using the TENS pads, and then it treats with the same TENS pads. So it works really well. Karen, do I always have to start with presets? Yeah. No. Okay. Do I always have to start with the presets, then go to the programs? Can I not go straight to the programs if I look for something specifically and run it from there? The answer is you need to start with the preset. The reason is, remember, the preset is a recipe, okay? So if you have a recipe for chocolate cake and your ingredients, which are programs, are the ingredients for chocolate cake, that's great. But then you change the programs to a turkey dinner, you do not want to use the same recipe for turkey dinner. So you always, what I actually do when I'm doing new stuff is the first thing I do is I actually go to the control tab. Actually, that's not true. The first thing I do, I go to the programs tab and search for whatever I'm doing. Oh, yes, I found it. There's things to do. Good. Then I go to the control tab and I find a generator I'm going to run on and I stop it. That's really important because when we go to override it, it needs to be stopped already. So I stopped it. The next step I do, I go to presets and home. I'm going to load a shell preset. And in this case, it's contact mode because we're talking about maybe killing. Then I go to programs and I've already done a search. I add whatever I'm going to go in there. Then I can go to control, overwrite it, plop it into the virtual generator and run, or whatever generator and run. So yes, you do need to do that because, like I said, you really do not want to use the recipe for chocolate cake if you want to roast a turkey. That act, believe it or not, that's a really good analogy. So yes, you need to start with presets always. You will not like the results otherwise. It won't hurt you, but it won't work well. Okay, what's the best place to put TENS pads for hunt kill? Well, Patrick, it depends what the problem is. I mean, if you have a problem in your abdomen, it'd be in the abdomen. If it's in your foot, it'd be around your foot. So, and if you're talking about generator X is not a good biofeedback for your entire body. You need to be specific on that because it's just too big for it. So generally, if you're trying, I want to find out whatever is wrong in my body, it's not a good choice. That's the best way to put that. So you're going to put it around wherever the problem is. Okay, Casey, I have an older computer getting ready to go to Windows 11. Is there an issue upgrading to 11? Meaning you're at Windows 10 now and you're going to go to 11. I assume. There's a whole lot of technical issues with that, depending on, and if it's an older computer, it won't let you install 11. Microsoft has specific hardware requirements for security that are hardware features. And if your computer doesn't have those, it won't let you install Windows 11. And so definitely if you have a Windows 7 machine, you're not going to go to 11. But here's the deal. Now we're talking computers was definitely my forte. Windows 10, they're going to quit supporting. Sort of quit supporting sometime this year. What that means is they're not going to do any enhancements to it or that sort of stuff. For major security things, they'll still do those for a couple of years. That's what they've always done. Now, to be honest, if this is a Spooky machine, you really don't care about that. They haven't supported Windows 7 in a long time, and I'm still using it just fine. And so Don't worry about security stuff. Don't worry about, oh, Windows 10 is going to go away, and what am I going to do? Especially since if you have an older computer, it's not going to upgrade to Windows 11 because it doesn't have the hardware features. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I'm happy with 10. I know 10. I don't need 11. And so that's my personal opinion. But you can do what you think you want to do. But unless you're a computer person, I wouldn't bother, and I certainly wouldn't pay anybody to do it because there's no reason to do it. Sorry, that was a soapbox answer, but that's the way it is. Okay, can you look for addiction one more time? Okay, it's the same. Visa. It's the same thing for anything. You're going to go and for addiction, we'll do this again. We're going to go to presets. We're going to do home, and we're doing contact mode, so we're going to do contact mode at the moment. Not that it matters. Shell, contact. And what I like is healing, because that's what it is. We go here, we're going to do it for addiction. We do it, helps to be able to type. Do a search for addiction, search. And there it is. So I can do, this is the ones that are on there. There's probably more in there, but I might pick, I mean, these are actually, let's throw 3 of them in. See, I'm double clicking on each one of these. Now I have something that's going to run for 27 minutes. Now I go into control, overwrite the generator, put it on virtual generator 1 or virtual generator, and now these guys are in here. It's going to run for 27 minutes. Hopefully that answered your question. If you have further stuff on that, feel free to email me and we can talk about that. Okay, Elizabeth, if I'm running a program and I have some time, can I unplug the remote and plug in the cylinders and use them for a while? Then disconnect and plug the remote back in. Well, yes, you can do that, but you actually need to load the contact version of the programs and run that. You shouldn't run the remote ones for a whole lot of reasons. The recipe is different, so the way remote works. So what you would do is if you're running a remote and now you want to do contact mode, you'd stop it, you'd load the contact version of it, run that until you're done, and then you'd go back to the remote version of it. Charlona, okay, what issues SP2 do you have downloaded? Okay, you saw things on my computer that's not on yours. It's not that this is in there. So this is actually the January of last year in here. What you saw is in the presets, okay? Mostly what you see is these, the DH experimental presets, which I really like a lot. That you actually can download from the Spooky2 website. Go to downloads, and there's a DH experimental frequencies. Download that and execute it, and then it will install it. I love these things. They're great. If you open that up, and we'll go look at the remote, it's easiest. It has all kinds of cool things in it. I mean, really neat stuff. David Halliday is an entirely different view of life. So there's lots of good things in here you can do. By the way, I'm actually using this one when I'm not doing the painting. That's teeth and gums. It hasn't restored anything yet, but that's what I'm trying. I've heard that it does. So that's where you get that. So that, again, was, this is in this guy. DH experimental frequencies. That's spooky2.com. Go to downloads, scroll down a little bit. You're going to download an executable and execute, and it'll install it all. Now, there's other things in here like the Spooky ICU. That's from several years ago. That's from somebody who used to be with Spooky and isn't anymore, and he came up with his own set stuff. So we're not going to worry about that. The Newport adaptations, I can't remember where that is at the moment. If you send me an email, I'll tell you if you want to look at that, because that has some interesting things in it as well. Very interesting things. So, and I don't remember where I got it. Actually, I have a copy of it, which I can send you or give you a link to. So that's the most of the things that you probably saw. Maria, is there a way to have the software recognize a generator that was disconnected without shutting down the software? And yes. So if it got disconnected, you reconnect it, then you can probably, you should be in the control panel. That's what utils and rescan devices does. It should go out and, if you've noticed when you start Spooky, it goes out and finds all your generators. This is what it's doing. So if Spooky's up and you want to find your generators, that's what you run. Now, depending on what happened to your generator, it may or may not find it. And the reason for that is Windows can get confused about the status of the generators, And by the way, the generators can get confused as well, which is why earlier talking about you may have to turn the generator off and turn it back on. I've seen many times where you reboot the system, it still couldn't find it. And that's because you need to do the power on reset of it to clear whatever's wrong in the generator. So that's the deal here. If you do the rescan and it finds it, you're in good shape. If it doesn't find it, then I'm really sorry. Yes, you're going to have to shut down and all that. But don't forget, there is over here, there is the global reserve. So it's not a problem. If you do have to shut down, once it comes up, do a global resume, be patient. It'll go through all your generations, restart them exactly where they were when you shut down. Joyce, I'm installing starter kit. My won't open the zip file. Okay, Joyce, there's several reasons for that. Without seeing a picture of it, I can only guess. Most of them, well, if it won't open it at all, you may be running in S mode. I have a video out on my YouTube channel that talks about S mode and how to get out of it. It's easy to do, but you have to download something from the Microsoft Store to turn off S mode. And it says, oh, this is permanent. Good. You don't want it on anyway. There's also some other things that will prevent you from executing things. And if there's a more info on that, you click on more info and they'll say, yes, I want to do this anyway. Again, these are things to protect Microsoft legally. They'll tell you they're to protect you, but trust me, they're not. So that's where you should be. If that doesn't work, you can post to the Facebook group, or you can email me with a picture of the screen, and I'll tell you what you need to do. Ed, what are the acronyms on the right side of the Programs tab? Those are the database, as I pointed out earlier. These are the databases that Spooky uses. And if you hover over them, it'll tell you what this thing is. Some rough details. Another F. How do I use this device blue generator without my computer? No, you can't. So the blue generator, the blue generator has to be hooked up to the computer because it's really dumb. It won't do anything unless the computer is telling it to do stuff. So you have to use the computer with it. Sorry, but that's the way that one works. You can do stuff with the silver generator because you can load things to run offline, but I never do it because there's a lot of restrictions to it. In my opinion, most of the offline mode stuff is a marketing ploy. I mean, it does it and it works well in some times, but a lot of things it won't do, and it's a complex list. But again, if you text me or if you send me an email, I can explain it to you. Pamela, okay. It is okay about change. Thank you very much. It is okay about change. Yes, the chains are easy to do. It's just a matter of creating a couple presets, chaining them together, saving it, and running what you save. That's literally how you do that. So again, I think I have a video out there on chains, and you can do a search in YouTube for chaining. There's lots of things on chaining. Let's see. What would you suggest for a frozen shoulder? What I would suggest for a frozen shoulder, I like contact mode for that. I would search on frozen shoulder. Oh, look, frozen shoulder. That's what I'd suggest for frozen shoulder. I mean, it's really interesting how much you can find this spooky. I would do this as a healing. What's it says here? So it's possible that I do a killing for this because of what it says in here. So the difference is if you're trying to kill anything, if it's pathogen related, you need to do killing. Anything for you want to improve the performance of your liver, that would be healing, or if it's organ based, it's sensitive for that. So that's what I would do for a frozen shoulder. I do a killing preset. I'd put the pads on either on the front and back of the shoulder and run it that way. And by the way, I've done frozen shoulder stuff for my neighbor in imprinting stickers, and that's helped a lot as well. So, but I can't tell you how to do that here. Okay. No for 10 expensive, Jay. I don't understand what you mean by that, Jay, so I can't answer. Javen Sanders, what program we run on melanoma? How long? Okay, that's a complex question, Javen, because melanoma is cancer. So what I would do for cancer is in presets, home, there's something called cancer. And there's DB, That is David Book, who's not with us anymore. And I would read the guide. The cancer, there's a bunch of stuff that you need to do for the guide. There's actually a phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, there's a 10-day detox that you should do first. And then after that, there's about 12 days of treatments that you repeat until the cancer's gone. That's the idea. It's difficult to go through it here. If you actually go out to my YouTube site, I did 2 presentations. Each one is about an hour and a half. One of them is the phase 1. The other one is phase 2. And I've got some worksheets and other stuff to keep you on track, and it's all explained in there. It's beyond what I can answer here, but that's where I'd start. Go read this cancer guide here, and that's in Cancer DB. That describes how it is. And when I read it, it's like, oh man, I gotta do a presentation on this because I read it about 6 times before I understood. But it's okay, it's all there. Okay, Tom. Okay. Is it true not to put on fat because it impedes the delivery of things? No, I don't think that's true. I mean, as long as you have, as long as you have the pads in a way it'll go through the fat, it's going to go through the fat. I don't see that as a big deal. I don't believe. Pamela, please elaborate a little on molecular weights. How do you tell if they should go under healing and killing? That's good. There are many that are beneficial. Are they actually killing frequencies? No, they're not killing frequencies. Molecular weights are as a molecular weight that should have the same effect as actually doing the drug. So we go over here, and we go over here, and that's in the MW database. So I'm going to use this minus. I'm going to turn off all my databases. I'm going to look for molecular weight, and I'm going to go into pain. That'll give me 1,000 things. So if I look at pain, there's all these different things like somnolentine. And we already talked about how bad ibuprofen is. Actually, let's go back to that. Ibuprofen. Ibuprofen. I can spell it. Ibuprofen. Okay? There's different ones. So ibuprofen, molecular weight stuff is different. It's not the actual drug. It's not as powerful. The intent is to essentially trick your system and brain into believing that you have this in there. So you can use these without the side effects of actually taking the drug. It's not like that. But how do you use this? That was really the question. So we found this, and again, this is the molecular weight database. We go into presets. We go into, we could do contact. We do contact. Oops, am I in the right one? Shell, contact. So what you use for that is this. MW emulate. That's molecular weight emulate versus remove. I mean, you might have stuff you want to get out of your system. That's what that's for. What you ask about emulate. This is the one you're going to use for emulate. You use MW. So it's not a killing, it's not a healing, it's an MW one. So you do that, go to programs, add it in, double click on it, you have it in there, and now you can run it. What's it set up to do? This will run forever. Now, everybody always asks the question, so I may as well answer it now as best I can. Well, how long should I run it? My view is, I don't think there's any limit. From my point of view, you can't overdo it. You can't OD yourself. You're not going to damage your kidneys because it's actually not in your system. I've done some of these and run them 24/7. You might want to start out with an hour or 2 and see how it works out. And that sort of use. Oh, you can always run it. You can always run it longer. I tend to run them in remote mode because it's easier. So, I mean, whatever you want to do, hopefully that answers the question. So they're not killing, they're not healing. You use an MW shell preset for that because it's a different, again, it's a different recipe. It uses a different type of waveform and amplitude. Jan, where would you post contact migraines? Again, for migraines, I would do it on the at the top of the shoulders on each side. That's where I would do that. And you can also do, obviously you can do remotes. You can do stickers for them as well. Holographic stickers. Okay. January Roberts. How much cloud silver is produced compared to how much ionic silver? I can't answer that question. Again, I'm sort of a basic person. I just follow the formula, which is here in Spooky. What you do for that is you kills, you have a so you do this calculator, you put in how much water you have, what you're shooting for, parts per million, and do a calculation, and it tells you how long you need to run it. And you use the colloidal silver stuff, and you need a stir and all that. So if I want to make 20 parts per million in a half a liter of water, it's going to take 12.5 hours. That's the best I can tell you. I don't know. I can't tell you how much of each it is. That's the best I can do for you. That's a question. That's a good forum question, to be honest. You go to Spooky2 forum, which you couldn't get to at do.com. The Spooky2 forum tends to be a lot more in depth. They have a lot more in depth people. They can talk about a lot more controversial things, but they're much more in depth. I can't answer that one. Okay, can you show me how to add a preset and then add a program? Sure. I've done it a couple times, but we'll do one more time. So in this case, we're going to do home. We're going to do shell. I know I want to do contact because that's what this one is. I decided I want to do an MW emulate because I'm going to try to do ibuprofen or whatever it is. I've now loaded that. Now I go to programs, find the programs I want, double click on it, and adds into here. And geez, since there's all these other ibuprofens, I'll add them all in. Yes. I don't know chemist. I'm not a chemist. So now I have them all of them in here that'll run for 21 minutes. And then you just go over, you load it in, you go to control, overwrite. Oops, not that one. If I start, yeah. There's a reason for that. If you get that, see this red with the red writing in this case with on red, that's because that's this generator. It's disconnected. So it's not going to be able to talk to it. So I shouldn't have done that. But that's what, if you have red writing on a generator, it's having problems talking to the generator. That's what it means. Anyway, you'll load the generator. This is going to be the VG, and you'll run it. That's what you do. There's a very nice 4 or 5 minute video I did on how to save and rename those. I suggest you watch that. It's outside what we can do here, but I think it's important to save things. That's why if you look at mine, and we look at this one, that's why it says, oh, this is the date that I made this. It's a radionics, and this is what's in there. Because what I did is exactly what I was doing. I loaded a shell preset, I added a bunch of programs in it, and then I saved it so I could find it again, and that's the one I actually load and run. I mean, you don't have to save it, but one of the things I found really early on is if I found something that worked in remote mode, when I go back and it's all, yeah, everything's great. And then I have the problem 3 months later, I have no idea what I did, none at all. And so, as a matter of fact, I won't remember for last week. And so that's why I save everything. So it gives me date stuff. It says what's, what type it is, and all that sort of stuff that's in there. That's the reason I do it that way. So, and like I said, there's a presentation I did that's 3 or 4 minutes on how to do that. I'm running remote. How many symptoms are acceptable? Fatigue, nausea. Okay. Yes, there is too many. So here's the deal. This is a rule of thumb. If we go to presets, let me do a killing this time. Back to this shell. In remote mode, yes, remote mode. That's what we're asking about. And we're going to do killing. Killing our okay. JW is John White, by the way. That's one of the reasons I use his stuff as a default. And then I go in here and I said migraine. Let's do it. All right, so now we did a thing for migraine. And I didn't find any because I don't have anything selected. CFL, we'll turn off MW because I don't need it. Because it needs a different type of thing. Okay, so here we have all these migraines, right? Can we get parasites with that? I don't know why it has in there. This is a bad choice. Let's do some else. Cold. That'll give me a bunch of hits. 34 hits. Okay, so here's the deal. So what happens is I say, yeah, I want cold run. I double click on that. It has a load of programs. Look, that's going to run for an hour and 18 minutes. Then I add this one. It's going to run now for an hour and 40 minutes. So the deal here is that the rule of thumb, and it is a rule of thumb, and I can tell you why it's there. The rule of thumb is you shouldn't really exceed 4 hours. And by the way, if I want to get rid of this one, I can double click on down here and get that. So the 4 hours, where that comes from is if for 4 hours, it can run these frequencies and it'll hit every frequency 6 times in a 24-hour period. It's a math problem. And the general view of the people who've been around a lot longer than me is that represents the maximum you really want to be doing on a remote. Is you want to hit each frequency at least 6 times in a 24-hour period. Now, having said that, if we were to get rid of some of these, and suppose we only had 2 hours, well, then we're going to hit everything 12 times. If you get the right frequencies, I think it'll work better. But the rule of thumb is no more than 4 hours in a remote. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, contact link and prostate. Definitely for prostate cancer with the probe, I use the probe, and then it would be as low as I could do in my abdomen, is where I put the TENS pad for that, because that's going to go right through. That'll go right through your prostate. Okay. No, I did this. Somebody asked for hops. I answered that already. Can someone insert the no. No, no, you need to run the you need to run the internal probe. The internal probe, for one thing, it's a lot smaller, and it has these 2 areas on it that are this is where it's going to go. So it's very narrow. So that's what I would do. I think that's what you're asking. Charlotte, can you imprint by version? You bet you can. You can do that on a sticker. I don't really like doing that. The high all the MW frequencies are really high, and so they're actually higher than what the generator can do. So it tends to use harmonics. What a harmonic is if you have a frequency of 100, a harmonic of 100 is 200, and it's also 400 and 800. So you can see how that's what that's doing. So so in order to hit those really high ones, it uses a harmonic. I don't find it as number one. I don't find it as effective because of that. Although it works especially in remote and contact mode. I think it's sort of debatable in imprinting. Now, having said that, I actually have I have a sticker one for pain, and I also have a preset that I've done for pain oil. I really like it a lot. I use these little bottles. This is a 2-ounce, and I've been using. You can use almond oil, or you can use. I've been using coconut oil, and I put those on PEMF coil and run it for about 4 days to imprint it, and it's worked very well. So if you want the recipe for that, let me know, and you can play with that. Okay, Emmanuel. There's a preset program that cannot be found in the Programs tab. The preset I want to run that cannot be found within the Programs tab when you go through presets here in Contact. Is it okay just perform search from preset? Yes, you can. The tricky part about doing searching, so if I do a search for the presets, and we'll regret this, but we do one from let's do one for knee. So we find for knee. Okay, so here's the deal if it ever comes back with it. Number one, it doesn't tell you the progress, but we have the little hourglass, so I know it's still working on it, and it can be really slow, because of the way they've written the code. Someday it'll come back. The tricky part is that, for instance, it'll find knee, and there'll be a contact version, a remote version. I mean, all that sort of stuff. So you have to be careful to get the contact version or remote version you want. This may never come back. We'll let it think about that for a while, and if it comes back, I'll return to that so we can talk about it. But that's what it is. Yes, you can do that, but like I said, it's going to return, if it ever comes back, it's going to return a bunch of stuff. And so everything with knee, it'll come back in, which includes contact and all that. So make sure you pick the correct delivery for that. All right, so that's done. So top and bottom spine for back pain. No, I would tend to put it side to side on back pain. So If it's a lower back, I'd put it on either side of the lower back and so on and so forth. That's what I do for that. Most back pain tends to be isolated to a certain area. Let's see, Trina. What do I set the dials on? You don't set the dials to anything on the XM generator. It is 100% controlled by the software. It doesn't matter what it's doing. So don't worry about that. Using the 10-pan comment and biofeedback. Why does my generator turn purple and show text of BFB instead of presenting? Okay, so what happens is when you're running a biofeedback, Spooky pauses all the other generators. The reason it does that is to keep from interference and stuff. So that should be what you're seeing is all the other generators turn purple. And they just stay wherever they are. And then when the biofeedback gets done, everything just takes off where it left off. And by the way, this one, let's see. So if we go back to here, there's all these knee things. See, most of these are my name because I created them for knee pain and for various things I've done. It didn't find any other presets, but so like this is a sticker for knee pain. This was a meniscus, which worked really well, by the way. And the meniscus. Oh, you have to have surgery for that. Apparently not. So anyway, it found all these, and that's why they're all in here. And from I've got these names, so I know this is making imprinting stickers in the remote. This is doing something in the coil. This is contact mode with C. This is using the laser. This is actually a an RC. I think this should be a what is this? This is a preset. I mean a chain. That's what the C means in that case. So anyway, that's my stuff that's in here. Let's go back to our questions. Okay, Tim Russell, using a cell phone on contact sessions. I don't see a problem. I mean, I would do it. I have done it. The only times that cell phones can be sort of debatable, it really is with the scaler. The intent of the scaler is to deaden all that stuff. So using a cell phone or whatever while you're in the field is probably a bad idea. But I don't see any problem with the contact session. Okay, Pamela. Okay, you answered that. Victoria, thank you very much. You're a good teacher. I appreciate that. Jeremy, can one use contact versus central when running a plasma? Yes, you can use contact with the Spooky Central. There's also I did a nice presentation on the Spooky Central a month or so ago, and yes, well, while you're doing plasma, you can use a PEMF coil. You can use a contact at the same time as all that. There's an ultrasonic one you can use at the same time. That's all part of the of what's built into the central because it's got a lot more amplification and it can do that. Anonymous, what is the DNA programs? Okay, so all these pathogens, it's very specific, have DNA in them. So DNA, what you'll see is for the DNA stuff, it's an explicit strain of whatever it is. And so you'd use actually, I think he used a killing program for those, I think. Let's go look. So if we go down here and we say home and shell, I usually don't use them because I don't have that much information. I don't know which one of these viruses or whatever I have. So, oh yeah, there's a DNA. So if you're going to do DNA stuff, use the DNA preset for that, okay? Because they're also very high frequencies. Sorry, I didn't know that offhand. All right, so, and oh, by the way, since we're here, if we go look at home, there is a DNA preset as well. Again, these are self-contained. So if we look at bacteria and contact, all you have to do is, if you know what exactly you have this, whatever this is, you can load that to your preset and run. If you know that, you have the test or whatever says you have this, it's going to kill all these strains. That's its purpose in life. So you can do it different ways. Okay, can you use the plasma and ultrasound together? Yes, you can. No, it's the only one generator driving the central, and the central does everything else. You'll have the ultrasound and the plasma hooked into the central at the same time. Do you know when it's supposed to translate something? Do you know if and when Spooky2 will translate the software platform to Apple? My guess is never. They've had plenty of opportunity to do it, and they haven't done it. If you decide you want to run that, you can certainly use a virtual machine product like VMware, which is what I use, by the way. This Windows machine I'm on doing this on is actually a virtual machine in my Linux machine, and so you could do all that. It's not bad, but again, you have to be relatively technical to do that. But yes, you can do that. There's various instructions, not from Spooky, because the one from Spooky is from 10 years ago. But there's lots of videos and everything on how to run Windows in a virtual machine on Apple. That's the way you'd have to do that. But I wouldn't hold my breath for them to do it. It's a lot of work. That's the reason they're not going to do it. Let's see, Janine. Okay. Let's say I'm running 4 XM generators on remote with various presets. Can I run biofeedback Gen X using kill? Or does BFB? No, you can do that. What you can do certainly is you could do a biofeedback on whatever generator is available in contact mode, assuming that's what you're going to do. And then you could run it on that same generator in contact mode, or you could have another generator set up to do remote. That's no problem. The only trick is when it's doing the biofeedback, so the initial one of 20 minutes, everything else is paused. And then once it gets to 10 frequencies, it'll start running those, everything kicks off again. And then when that 30 minutes gets done, then it's going to do another biofeedback, but then it'll last 1 or 2 minutes at the most. And everything's paused during that time, and then it kicks off again. So yes, you can do that. It doesn't have to be run all by itself. I've done it a lot. It works just fine. Okay, Rhonda. When using contact on the central, can you use both contact devices? Yes, you can hook up all those options that and there's a PEMF as well. You can use them all simultaneously as long as they're all hooked into the central. That's not a problem. It was built to do that. LLB now. When I want to download the software updated, I have no idea which one to choose, even when I start over. It's not clear which one to choose from the website. So if you're doing, which one? Okay, number one, from the Spooky2 website, you can download that software and it'll install on anything from XP up. It's not a problem. You can do that. So there is no, I need the Windows 10 version, Windows 11 version. It doesn't work that way. Assuming you're upgrading, it's actually pretty easy to do. Actually, if you go out to my YouTube website, I have a 6 or 7 minute video that does a step-by-step of how to upgrade. I keep meaning to do one for a brand new install, and I just haven't got around to it. I'll try to do that this week, but I haven't done it yet. If you're trying to do an upgrade, Joe, just go look at that and follow it step by step. It's actually really easy. It's almost identical to the install. It's not a big deal. So it's there. There's nothing to choose from. You just download the current version and run it, and it'll execute and do everything. The only trick is, and it's not much of a trick, it's going to ask you, do you want to save your current stuff? Generally, the answer is yes. You'll probably never need it, but it's nice to have a full backup if you need it. And one of the things it does when you do an upgrade, all your custom stuff, all your biofeedback, all that stuff stays. It does not delete any of that. Don't worry about it. So everything you've done up to this point will still be there when you get done. Okay, Karen, you just said Intel processor. AMD is the other one. There's Intel and AMD. There is a group that says, well, AMD maybe. I don't have any AMD processors. It should work. If there's going to be any problems, it would be with them. I would prefer Intel because Intel will work. So, and AMD should work. That's the best way I can do. Since I don't have an AMD, there's no way for me to test it. So I would, like I said, I would prefer an Intel processor, but AMD should work. Brands of 10 pads. Nah, I got whatever. Are there specific brands of 10 pads you get from Amazon? No, I just got the generic 10 pads. There wasn't anything special about them. Can PEMF be used for prostate? Yes, it can. You can put it underneath the scrotum. That'd be a good place for it. That's not a problem. Again, it has a depth of about 6 to 8 inches. The only thing is the PEMF works best at lower frequencies. So you may want to look at what frequencies are in the program. for that. But yes, it'll work just fine. If you want to get rid of mold and toxins from your brain, you're thinking this is detoxing. And so I don't know. Let's see. Actually, if we go to programs and we do a thing for detox, search is your friend. Keep that in mind. So there's lots of detox stuff in here. Whether there's this stuff for detox brain, I don't know. And notice I'm not doing a search on everything. Maybe add an extra. And Russ. I don't want to get carried away here. So it has a lot of detox stuff in here. And you conceivably, I find that the searching works best with a single word, but we can try detox brain. If I don't find anything there, it doesn't look like it found anything. The next thing I do is just brain. And then I look for stuff in there that might do that. That's my best thing on that. And where would you put them? If you're doing contact mode, it's going to be your shoulders. It's going to be the top of your shoulders. That's the closest you can get for them. But certainly you can, for mold detox or mold toxins, you could certainly use plasma if you have that. That will work anywhere. You can certainly use the PEMF coil for that. That's not a problem. I would not use the laser. Laser doesn't go very deep, so it's not going to work out that well. Okay, so Charlona, what program issue of Mike running? I missed the answer. Well, I'm running the January. I'm running the January 24 on this computer. You can see. I'm running the December version, no, the November version of 24 on my on the system in my bedroom, and I'm running actually a 22 version in on my computer in my living room where I do biofeedback. You're gonna have to send me an email for that of why I do that, but that's what I'm running. And keep in mind, I mean, you don't have to upgrade. This isn't something you have to do. If what you're using is working, then that's great. One of the things that I haven't been doing, but I will at least somewhere, I actually have a program that when a new one comes out, I can run this and it builds me a list of all the presets that's changed. I can't tell the programs because they don't externalize that, but I can tell you what presets have changed. And so if you guys want to know that, join my Telegram group because I'll probably post it out there. And I might post it on Facebook. I haven't decided on that. It's easy to lose stuff like Facebook. Ellen, kidney stone programs. Yes, I run kidney stone on healing preset. Unless the comments on it say something about pathogens, I'd run it on healing for kidney stones. Although some of them can be caused by that. So read the comments here in the programs thing and see what it says. Anonymous, are the program records afraid to sure. Go into programs. And we type in HIV. There you go. There's tons of them. And by the way, there will be DNA ones as well. And there's probably presets that are, again, this is a shake and bake. This is everything there, HIV. These are load and go things. If it ever comes back, remember, see, so these are in the David Halliday ones. These are all David Halliday, but there's stuff out there. So yes, there's lots of things out there. And you see, these are DNA. These are coil versions. So yes, they're out there. Michael Stimson, would it be possible to use a linear amplifier to amplify the signal to a Rodin coil to increase efficiency? Okay, so again, remember, I'm a basic person. I know what a Rodin coil is, but I don't have one. My advice to you is to sign up for the Spooky2 forum. You can get to that from Spooky2.com. Those are the guys that do all that sort of stuff. There's people out there that have done what you're talking about. So that'd be the place to get those answers. You will not get those answers on at least not on the main Facebook group. We won't answer those kind of questions because that's super experimental and beyond the scope of the new people. Okay. Is there any way to do biofeedback on a cat? That's a challenge, isn't it? Well, you have, depends on what's wrong with the cat. Certainly you can get saliva out of a cat. You can get blood out, well, no, if you get blood out of a cat, it's probably your blood from the cat biting you. If you can get some blood, you can do it that way. You can do urine if that's the case, but that's, as far as contact mode, that's going to be really hard to do. I can't think of any good way to do it. I wish I could. You might want to post that on the Facebook group because there's other people that have done that before. Daniel James. So by the way, I figure that, at 9:30, if Zahara will let us, we're going to shut this down. So hopefully I still have 24 more questions to answer. Hopefully I'll get done with them in the next 20 minutes. Okay, Daniel, pulse feedback. It's running kill codes at the same time. The scan, do you have to save? If you're doing a pulse mode feedback scan, it's gonna run for its hour or whatever, and it's gonna give you pop up 10 frequencies, and you can save them there. If you're talking about doing the hunt and kill or whatever it's called there, that's a whole nother matter. And by the way, in the reverse lookup, no, reverse lookup. I'm not a great believer in reverse lookup. All reverse lookup does is say, oh, I'm going to look up these frequencies and see what programs have the same frequency. You can't use it as a diagnostics tool, and especially for new people, my view is, look, it found 10 that you need to run them. That's my opinion of it. I occasionally look at reverse lookup, but I don't find it as being that valuable, to be perfectly honest. The only time that it does have value is if you went to the doctor and he says you have prostate cancer, and then you run you're gonna run a biofeedback and you have some prostate cancer things there. Those I believe. So for if you have a place to start, those work pretty well. If you're trying to diagnose stuff, don't bother. It's not good for them. So Alana, again, in one class I found XM teacher explained how to use all the dials. Yes, there is a way to do that, Shalana, but it's not. Yes, there's a way to use the generator offline to send one frequency if you know what the frequency is. If you want to do that, there are some YouTube stuff out there. I don't believe it's going to be all that great. And again, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't recommend it. I've never done it. I have no plans on doing it because I can load a program from Spooky and it's got 10 frequencies or 23 frequencies in it for my condition. I see no reason to try to do one frequency at a time. Okay, Christina. What should I be using for knee and hip issues? Well, it depends on what's wrong. Certainly, the easiest thing to do is to go get yourself a healing preset, do a search in programs for knee and hip, and throw those in, and do it in contact mode or remote mode. That's the easiest thing. Now, if you think it's caused by some sort of pathogen, then you could do a biofeedback on that area and see what it can come up with. Jessica. Can you use Spooky2 for a client who has chronic pain, 5+ years post-disorder, who also has a pacemaker? That's a challenge. Pacemakers are really a problem because for the most part, the only thing you can safely do with Spooky when there's a pacemaker is remote mode. See, remote mode will work just fine. But you can also you can imprint stickers because they're not super active. So those are the two things I would do. And I like stickers because you can stick them anywhere, your head, wherever. I mean, that's not a problem. That's what I would tend to do. I assume it's chronic pain for the knee. There's lots of knee pain. You can also do, if you send me an email, I'll send you the recipe, meaning the preset, for my pain oil. And I've got a lot of my friends are using that who think it's just the greatest thing to slice bread. Jeremy, how does one update the database? That's an advanced topic. I don't even remember I don't remember the site. Let me see. Let me go look at that. Can I do that? Now, send me an email for that. I can't. There's a site where they have all the stuff there's a download you can do that'll just update the database if that's what you want to do. Obviously, if you install the latest and the greatest from Spooky2 from the downloads area, that will bring in the latest and greatest database. I just can't remember. It's cancerclinic.nz. I think that's what it is. And there's a download section there. But keep in mind, that stuff is considered beta. It's, is it really tested? Does it really work? All that sort of stuff. I never recommend that. If you want to upgrade stuff, I think you should upgrade the whole thing from the Spooky2 site. Okay, Shalona Newport. I don't remember where it is, Shalona, and I answered that already. Send me an email or go ask me on my chat, and I'll find it for you. Oh, Ellen, when you run DH from programs, how is that different than what you showed in terms of working? Oh, the difference is, and when you're doing DH, let's see, in here, the DH experimental frequencies, David Halliday has his own view of what you should be doing for waveforms and timing. I mean, his are really interesting. If you look at some of these, what it does is it actually, it has this list of frequencies and it repeats them 23 times because he likes 23 and it's a bunch of stuff like that. On the other hand, the stuff that I uploaded to the Facebook group is only the frequencies, because sometimes you want to run things together, and I would tend to use a healing, unless it's something that's actually a killing, I would choose a shell preset and add it that way. So it's a way to use his frequencies, but not his recipes, what it boils down to. Serena, which is best for some? Oh, yeah. The general view for biofeedback is the biofeedback. Which is best? I hear some use only angle and current. The general view that I have is I use angle plus current. So that is in here, in the control tab, and there. And so she's talking about here when you do a biofeedback. The default is current, but most of the practitioners use angle and current for that. And you can do it the other way, and there's a way to change it later if you've already done it. That you need to send me an email. Jeremy Schneider, is there a limit to length of BNC cable when using contact? Not my opinion. I mean, I have a 20-foot one as an extension, so no, there shouldn't be a limit. You should use a 50 ohm cable, but you can get whatever you want. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy with it, but you can definitely use a 50 ohm cable and do a 15-foot or whatever, a 6-foot, whatever you need from that point of view. But don't use 50 or 100. PJ Niblet, how do we know if something is considered a pathogen? How do you know? Basically, the easiest way to tell is look at the comments. If it's talking about if it's a bacteria or virus or whatever, that's a pathogen. Anything that's alive or sort of alive is a pathogen. Anything other than that, like if you want to improve your kidneys, that's healing. That's the best way to tell that. Anita, when imprinting stickers, we have stop all our generators. Nope, I never do. No, I have my stickers in the remote, and that's where I run it. And no, you do not have to stop the other ones, because it's actually imprinting what's in the remote, and it's a very a small area. And even if I'm imprinting on the coil, it's still all the power's in the coil. You're doing something 4 inches away from it, I don't care. It's not going to make a difference. Thank you for the reviews. I've used the ray gun. Actually, I have a ray gun, and I've used it a couple times, but not enough to actually give you an opinion. The concept I like. It was pretty affordable, and that's the reason I bought it. My wife had some problems, but she hasn't been using it either, so it's the best I can do for now. Luella, can you run the radionics with Radio Spooky? Yes, you can. There's actually radionics. If you look in here, there's actually where is it? Radionics. There's actually some presets specifically for radionics. So yes, you can do that, and it'll run on any kind of generator you have. Pauline, no, I didn't say no lube. I said no condom on the probe. You need some sort of lube. Some sort of water-based lube is what they recommend. Tom Ricky, can you put the cold laser? And yes, I've done that. Now, lots of people have. Can you put the cold laser twin in your mouth on the gum for dental? Yes, people have done that. I would have the little cover on it. I would try to keep it from getting too wet, But yes, lots of people have done that. Actually, I kind of like the PEMF coil better, but that's just my personal opinion. Yeah, that's a very common thing, and I see a lot of advice for that. Anonymous attendee, probably details again. Details which are in this presentation. It is Spooky Tech Help. That's SPOOKYTECHHELP at gmail.com. Four medications. Can I run all four together in one program? I'm on four medications. Can I run all four together in one program? Should I run one program at the same time? I'd put them all in one program. I wouldn't worry about it. Again, they're not the actual medications. They're the equivalent, rough equivalent of the medications. So I would do it. I wouldn't have a problem doing all four or six or whatever you do. And a lot of people imprint them in water or whatever else as well. Okay, a Telegram group. Yes, there's about 200 members now. So again, and that's, if you send me an email, I'll send you a copy of this presentation, which has some advantages because it has all the information. Is it brain mold? Is mold in the brain a kill first then detox? I don't know. I've never looked it up. I've never done it. I can't really answer that. You might want to post to the Facebook group of that. Sounds like it would be. I mean, you need to what detoxing does. Detoxing essentially opens your system up and flushes things out. And so, yes, the theory is if you kill things, your system itself works on. That's what your lymphatic system and kidneys and liver. That's what it's supposed to do. And so most of the detox programs, what they do is they encourage that to happen. So if your system's working really well, you shouldn't need to do that. That's actually why we recommend you do terrain first, because the whole idea is to get everything working well. So when you start killing stuff, your system can get rid of it. I hope that makes sense. Patrick, how many times should you use a test bed for replacing? I think you can get away with 6 to 8, sometimes 10. Again, if you swab the area before you stick them on you with alcohol first to get the oils off, it'll go long. In the Programs tab, what are the bottom right corner buttons? Oh, those. Blood purifier and zapper. I can't really answer those. That's these guys down here. This is Microgen stuff. So that's another spooky product, the Microgen. And I don't have one. I have a friend who has one, but I've never seen it. So I really can't answer that. I would recommend you go to the Spooky2 website to find information about the Microgen, but it's a separate product. Sarah, I bought a couple of blue generators back in May and June of 2015. Wow, for Elvin and Grandpa. Passed away a few days later. I've tried using generators since. No, they'll work fine. The 2015, they're blue generators. They're just fine. What you may have a problem with is that some of the peripherals back then, the boost could be different and the remotes could be different. So you may need to buy those, but they're not expensive at all. I mean, I think I had to replace a boost. It was like $20 or $30, and the remotes aren't that much either. So you need to see what's there. If they're there's some remote, no remote. No, there's no remote. So this is what a remote looks like. And so it's black and whatever, and this is remote 2.0 or whatever. So if you don't have that, I recommend you get that. And the boost as well, it should look like the boost I showed earlier. Lori, if we want to update the newest version of frequencies, no. You don't need to delete anything. If you want to upgrade, just go download the current package from Spooky2.com, the download section, and install it. That's all you gotta do, it'll take care of everything. When it asks if you want to save, the answer is yes. It'll do the rest. What extension cable recommended for proprietary? Well, I don't know. I assume I don't know which cables you're talking about. If you're saying that the cable for the tens cable is too short, that's different. But I mean, all of these things hook in with the BNC connector, with the connector I showed you. And so you can just get an extension BNC cable from Amazon. Just make sure it's 50 ohm. And that's part of the thing it says. So so that's what I'd recommend for that. And I wouldn't get anything longer than what you need. Certainly 10 or 12 foot should be plenty for most things. Okay. Okay, so here's the deal. Keep asking for the pot stuff. And that spooky tech help, that's just the Gmail ID I use for spooky questions. It is my personal email for this. And that's where I answer all my spooky stuff. So that's the way that works. I mean, if you have spooky questions, send it to that email address. That's where I answer spooky stuff. And I answer them all. I can attach files. I can give you pointers. It's all there. But otherwise, I mean, I get on my personal side and the other emails I have, because I have about 5 email addresses. I get tons of that stuff a day. That's how I keep this stuff separate. So that's what I do. So I still can't answer the POTS question. But if you email me, I'll do what I can to answer. Okay. I have caught up with all the questions. So we've done pretty good for that. I can't remember. I answered 162 questions. Wow, that's pretty good. That may be a new record for me. Okay, I hope everybody's found this useful. Oh, let me go back to let me see what it's like out of before we do this. Share, because I get involved in the questions and I shouldn't. I should do the other stuff first. So that's this guy. So in here, Q&A, we did that. Wrap up. So, and again, this will be in the presentation if you ask for a copy of it. All these places, my YouTube channel, Vimeo, which is the best place for Spooky2 videos. By the way, if you're looking at Spooky2 videos at YouTube or Vimeo, my best advice to you is if it's more than 2 years old, don't look at it. Actually, you'll find newer ones. Spooky doesn't ever delete any of their videos, and so a lot of times the information's outdated, or you look at it and say, how come that doesn't look like my device? So I'd only look at saying stuff that's no more than 2 years old. Spooky2 Academy is where the weekly events are for signups. Spooky2 videos, I don't like them that much. The user's guide, that's really good. Click on the help pull down and user's guide. And there's a quick start guide as well. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for everybody. For everybody who's still hanging on, if you're still here. Yes, you are. I appreciate it. I will answer them all the emails, and I do it. And I am on Facebook all the time with a bunch of other really good volunteers who know more than me. So feel free to join there. Thank you for the time, and we will see you again. Good luck with your spooky. Let me know if I can help. What am I looking? Thanks. Talk